Hi, Inspiration Daily for November 1st, 2021. This is Gina Greenlee of GinaGreenlee.com. I took off my earrings, so I'm not blinging out, but forgive. Dave Chappelle, I usually don't talk about celebrities on Inspiration Daily, and I also, it's not part of this video series, and it's really not how because it's not how I operate. I don't respond to what celebrities are doing. That's not where my inspiration comes from. As I've demonstrated, I've been doing this every day since October 5th, so we've been here for not quite 30 days. But my inspiration comes from a variety of places that have nothing to do with. They're not reactive, I guess is what I'm saying. Does that make me superior? I'm not saying it does. I'm just saying it's what it is. So that's a little context for what inspired me today. Well, actually, it was a few days ago, but I'm talking about it today on November 1st. So Dave Chappelle did a 5-minute response to the controversy on his Netflix special, The Closer, and my co-author for a book I wrote called The Business of Race, How to Create and Sustain an Anti-Racist Workplace, asked if we should do like a letter to the editor, like an op-ed column, for not a letter to the editor, but an op-ed on it. And so here's my response to her was, that's not our lane. Our focus is on racial diversity, not gender diversity. There's all kinds of diversity, and that's really important. But we wrote a book called The Business of Race, and so it's outside of our lane, because these are huge. Diversity is a huge topic, and we're not trying to boil the ocean. So that was my first response. I used to write for a newspaper, and I was an opinion columnist for the Hartford Courant for 7 years. So I have a sense of this. Secondly, but I'm going to get back to why I'm sharing this piece about Dave Chappelle and what particularly this 5 minutes of what inspired me. Not the whole thing, but 5 minutes of what he said that I saw on October, I think it was 26th or something like that. Secondly, my friend and co-author, I said to her, so first is outside of our lane. We stay in our lane, we're going to be okay. But once we start going outside of our lane, we can't boil the ocean. We don't know everything. We can't know everything. Secondly, I said, I didn't see the Dave Chappelle documentary. Did you? No. So how can I opine on stuff that I haven't seen? 3, we say very clearly in our book, one of the things we say actually on the jacket is that, we in the United States have too long outsourced conversations on race. We must normalize the conversation on race, because we haven't, and look where we were on May 25th, 2020 with the murder of George Floyd, which sent the world, it just cracked open the world again on race. So I said we've long outsourced our conversations on race to celebrity soundbites, celebrities, talk show hosts, red carpet soundbites, police. We have to talk about this between ourselves, among ourselves, and not be reacting to what is perceived as isolated incidents. It's really a function of hundreds of years of historical, social, and economic oppression. So I said, no, we're not. I said, if you, as an individual, want to say whatever it is you need to say about it, go right ahead. But I feel this falls way outside our lane. So she thanked me for my thoughtful thoughts, and she agreed, and so on we go. So I don't have Netflix at home. Yeah, I watch the free stuff on YouTube, but that's not the only. I just have a lot of things to do, and I get movies at the library. And I was in Netflix. I'm not going to apologize for not having Netflix, but I don't have Netflix. I don't pay for any kind of movie service. I get free stuff on YouTube, not bootleg. YouTube has the free movies that they run, and then they make them free for a period of time. Then you can buy or rent them. I do occasionally buy or rent with money, with shekels, things on YouTube, documentaries. There's a lot of great stuff, documentaries that's coming out. That has been out, that's free. I finally got around to watching 13th. Whew, that was intense, with Ava DuVernay, Amend, a whole bunch of other things. Not everything about race. There's a lot of good stuff out there that I don't have to pay for. Yeah. So I got to pay for gas, I got to pay rent, but I don't have to pay for movies, so I don't. So I've been a huge fan of Dave Chappelle's for decades. Just I think his perspective is he is funny. He's definitely funny, but his comedy has always had a social justice bent to it. And in that way, he follows a grand tradition of people like George Carlin and Richard Pryor, and David Steinberg, and oh God, who's the big guy that was like black, but Lenny, I can't remember, Lenny Bruce. Yeah. So and most comedians, they comment on their times. That's where they get the material, and on their own lives. And so I really, I had other things going on in my life. I really wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to what was going on to Dave's life. And then when I went to YouTube, and I was signed in, so the AI feed was working for me, and I saw Dave pretty much responding to this, and I loved it. It inspires me when people speak their truth unapologetically, and they do it so cleanly, without being very clear about who they are, what they want, what they believe is going on, without hurting anyone, without denigrating anyone, and keeping the conversation open, which is really taking an asset view, a positive view toward how we need to be more humane toward one another. So that's what inspires me, because that is the view that we take in our book about the business of race. Is we take this asset view, being separatist, so that's the other thing. That's one thing that inspires me. And again, it also taps back into an Inspiration Daily I did about the 18 Americans, African Americans, Black Americans, Olympians who participated in the 1936 Olympics in Berlin when Hitler was in power. And the narrative was Jesse, as in Jesse Owens versus Hitler, but that wasn't what was really going on. And so to harken back to that, what Dave Chappelle's talking about, the narrative, what's being spun in the mainstream media, is that this is about Dave Chappelle, again, LGBTQ plus, and he's like, that's not what this is about. This is about corporate interests. And so to deflect from what's really going on, they create this other narrative, just like with Jesse Owens, to deflect from the fact that America was just as racist and just as Hitler was murdering Jews, and whoever, and America was murdering black people, with impunity. And so to say Jesse versus Hitler takes the attention away from Jim Crow, right? This is 1936. It takes the attention away from the fact that black Americans were suffered life under these black code laws. Okay, it takes attention away from the fact that, it was Hitler wouldn't shake Jesse's hand, but neither would Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who was the president of the United States. So this whole idea around narrative and how it's positioned for different interests, Dave is simply telling it like it is, and he's doing it very cleanly. And we do the same thing in our book, by the way. It's not a book for our book, it's just all these things come together. So I'm inspired when I see people do that, and I'm inspired to keep what is it by inspiration? It inspires me to tell my truth, whatever it happens to be, on whatever topic at the time, because that does change. Yeah, what my truth because have life experience, things change. But that inspires me. I was like, yeah. He said, this is it, And don't be talking about my documentary when you haven't seen the documentary in its entirety. That's one of the things that he says. And then he also talks about it, but I'm going to let him say it. He says it far more eloquently than I. He is a professional elocutionist. He's far more than a comedian. And I think in many ways, an important social conscience for the United States. Not just black Americans. And even if he were, there'd be nothing wrong with that, because there's plenty of white Americans who were very specific about what's good for white Americans, and nobody had any problem with that. But Dave is not talking about that. Okay? He's talking about something that affects all of us. And so this messaging, I think, is really important. So there you go. I took off my lipstick and my earrings because it's time to go night.